and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, Excellency Al-Qabbaj, advisor of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, who will give the reading of the royal message.
Gives me great pleasure to send you this message at the opening of the 4th African Investment Forum, an event held for the first time in Morocco. I have granted my high patronage to this continental event to show my support for this platform for exchange and interaction, giving us the opportunity here to share African experiences and know-how in order to boost the investment dynamic of our continent. I wish to welcome you to the Kingdom of Morocco, and more specifically to the ochre city of Marrakesh, whose historical and cultural heritage epitomizes the values of sharing and of solidarity. Values that have always been at the heart of our vision for effective solidarity-based inter-African cooperation in all sectors. Considering the great many investment opportunities it offers private investors, operators, Africa needs more than ever before bold, innovative initiatives to encourage private entrepreneurship and unleash the full potential of our continent. These initiatives, such as those taken by the AIF, which is sponsored by the African Development Bank, are commendable because they assist and facilitate direct private investments towards the most promising economic sectors, thereby strengthening the integration of African economies. The current international context, coupled with the current and potential impacts it has on our continent, means that we need to strive more than ever to increase our national productive capabilities and build stronger, more resilient continental value chains. In this regard, I commend the work done by our Pan-African institutions concerning the setting up of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AIF2023. It is fully in line with my vision for an integrated, prosperous Africa. As this African dream comes true, it will help to pave the way for the creation of regional value chains. The latter are indeed required to increase the continent's resilience to outside shocks and unlock its potential for production and prosperity on our continent. The infrastructure gap between Africa and other parts of the world that we hear so much about these days is a matter of concern, surely, for us all. This gap must be quickly filled in order to promote regular value chains regional value chains that can accelerate the productive transformation of our African countries. By bringing together investors, particularly from the private sector, and project leaders who can count on the technical support of development partners, the African Investment Forum, the AIF, constitutes an African response to the issue of investment financing. Through our different partnerships, therefore, I'm sure that this year's forum will be even more enriching and that it will send a strong signal and message to investors as to African countries' commitment to transformative investment. The aim is to fulfill the aspirations of our continent, our populations, and our youth. Thank you for your kind attention. May peace be with you.
African economies witnessed a real GDP growth of 3.8% in 2022, higher than the world average of 3.5%. Yeah, we still need to do more, but our head is above water. 5 of the 6 pre-pandemic top-performing African countries are projected to be back in the league of the world's 10 fastest-growing economies for 2023 and 2024. African economies provide some of the best investment opportunities in the world. I am optimistic about Africa. Now, do not believe me for my optimism. Believe the data. The world is becoming more African. With a youth population of 477 million people between the age of 15 and 25, Africa will be the key for supplying the global labor force. The size of the food and agriculture market in Africa will be worth $1 trillion by 2030. That's in less than 7 years from now. The African Continental Free Trade Area presents a consolidated market size of $3.4 trillion. The future of electric vehicles in the world depends on Africa. The size of the electric vehicles value chain is estimated to increase from the current $7 trillion to $57 trillion by 2050. That future as well depends on Africa. That is because Africa accounts for the largest source of the green metals for the development of electric vehicles, including platinum, 70%, cobalt, 52%, manganese, 46%, bauxite, 25%, and graphite, 21%. An assessment by Bloomberg NEF shows that the cost of manufacturing of lithium-ion precursor batteries in Africa is 3 times less than in the United States, China, and Poland, right here in Africa. Africa, Your Excellencies, has the largest sources of renewable energy sources in the world, including hydro and solar. And right here in Morocco, minerals and metals, renewable energy, agriculture, or the labor force that will drive global growth, Africa is where to be. As investors, put your money where the future is. The future is in Africa. The Africa Investment Forum is the place where bankable projects in Africa meet with investors, where investors meet with heads of state and governments in investment boardrooms, where comfort is given to investments, where risks are managed, and where deals are closed. There are many international conferences focused on business opportunities in Africa. No gathering, however, has been more strategic and important in terms of its convening power and capacity to galvanize investment action on the continent than the Africa Investment Forum, Africa's premier investment marketplace. What makes the Africa Investment Forum unique and remarkable is that it is highly innovative and 100% transactional. There is no other global investment forum like it. We develop and curate projects, reduce transaction costs and risks, and accelerate the closure of deals. We also improve the overall business environment within which projects and investments are structured, developed, and delivered. Since the launch of the Africa Investment Forum in 2018 in Johannesburg, South Africa, it has drawn more than 16,500 participants and generated investment interest of nearly $143 billion US. At the 2022 Africa Investment Forum Market Days, the Abidjan-Lagos Highway Corridor was able to secure $15.5 billion of investment interest. This corridor would transform the entire West African region and speed up regional integration and trade. And also last year, investment interest was secured for $3.6 billion for the East Africa Railway Corridor, linking Tanzania, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burundi. We are delighted that the Africa Investment Forum has so far closed deals, investment gaps worth $11 billion, ranging from liquefied natural gas, renewable energy, agribusiness, industrial manufacturing, creative industry, housing, and transport. It is time, again, for investment action. It is time to do it again. So let's do it again. Let the deals begin.
It is my great privilege to welcome you to this presidential conversation on accelerating Africa's economic transformation. This conversation, ladies and gentlemen, is taking place in an iconic place. For this Congress Center where we are today marked the official entry of Africa in a globalized world more than 3 decades ago, when the birth certificate of the World Trade Organization was signed in these premises by 123 countries. Today, we have the honor of taking a step further by engaging with 5 leaders whose dedication, vision, and lighting the path for our continent's journey towards prosperity and sustainable growth. The leaders gathered in this conversation share a commonality that goes beyond their titles. They are unifiers, common ground builders, reformers, advocates for change. Each and every one of them has shown a commitment to leveraging the tools of the 21st century, be it in agribusiness, manufacturing, or technology, to redefine the narrative of their nations and, by extension, of our African continent. As we navigate this dialogue, we are inspired by the collective experience and enlightened governance of President Assoumani, Bio, and Suluhu Hassan, and alongside with them, Prime Minister Guirente and Motley. What you bring to the table is invaluable for the people that are here gathered. Your contributions are more than just national pathways, but they are part of this big tapestry of Africa's economic renaissance. So let us forge ahead in this conversation, mindful of the diverse yet converging path of progress that each of these nations represent. May our discussions today reflect the shared vision and common purpose that these leaders exemplify. But before starting this conversation, let us consider the words of one immense African, the illustrious former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan. To live is to choose. But to choose well, you must know who you are and what you stand for, where you want to go, and why you want to get there. This is the spirit of the Africa Investment Forum. It is a forum of doers and a little bit a forum of thinkers. So this quote encapsulates the essence of the challenges Africa faces: the necessity of making informed choice in the journey of economic transformation, the importance of self-identity in the global arena, and the clarity of vision required to navigate the path ahead. It is a call for action, for African leaders to lead with intention and purpose, shaping a future that is grounded in the rich heritage and the legacy, and as well the dynamic potential of the continent. To a conversation that is much about the richness of our shared goals as it is about the uniqueness of our national and individual journeys. Let me turn to you first, President Assoumani, et bienvenue au Maroc. Vous êtes
You've come here to Morocco. This is a country you're familiar with, very familiar with, Mr. President, as President, current President of the African Union. What are the challenges, the main challenges in Africa so that we can raise our voice on the international stage in terms of integration in these value chains? Although the world today is just coming out of a massive shock and needs to rethink these value chains, how can we be better? Before I move on, I'd like to thank and certainly echo the message given by His Majesty Mohammed VI of Morocco then in his opening address, read out here. I'd like to thank, first of all, very, very warmly for this event, for organizing this event in his country, and for his warm wishes that my delegation and other delegations certainly warm to, and are delighted to be here in the city of Marrakesh. The government, the Kingdom of Morocco, thank you for its availability for organizing this event, for then preparing this event. We welcome and thank warmly His Majesty for his commitment towards greater cooperation between us, and to certainly salute Morocco for its then efforts to bring about a greater cooperation, integration and development between African countries. We also seize this opportunity here to renew our thanks, warm thanks and acknowledgement to His Majesty, and to express our condolences following the many deaths caused by the recent earthquake here in the region and in the city of Marrakesh. And we welcome and we certainly would certainly congratulate him and the authorities here in Morocco for all their efforts, in rescue efforts, for his then world leadership, guidance, also in promoting, well, sport, and also organizing the 2030 then and Cannes event in 2026 in the area of sport. May I also emphasize that this historical event between public and private sectors, decision makers, multinational stakeholders, as well as other investors involved in the economic development in Africa is a unique opportunity for world investors to discover and untap different opportunities for investment in Africa, and for promoters of projects to make available different resources, financial or otherwise. In this forum, we will be discussing how we can unlock the value chains in Africa, which are a major challenge for most of our countries, because despite our wealth, our continent continues to export products which are raw products with little added value indeed. Few products are processed in our countries or reprocessed in terms of production. We export to developed countries. These countries resell to us then reprocessed products at prices twice or even much higher than the initial price of production. Africa, along our production, our chain of values, do not live up to our expectations, as in the 2068 agenda. To facilitate economic growth in our country, we need to then seize this opportunity of this event, and we need to look at our different then world exports, manufactured goods, commodities, over the periods that we will be discussing, working with brokers, intermediaries, but that only is only a few percentages of the total goods, intermediate goods. That is why this event, in our as we discuss these value chains, of course, we are discussing, unfortunately, infrastructures that are inadequate. Those failings in terms of the lack of investment, given the commercial environment, of course, and the political upheavals, despite then improvements in the economic sphere, Africa today has opportunities that it must untap. Despite the obstacles, there are many opportunities to develop our industries, our economic sectors, to bring about greater integration between African countries. In 2028 in Nigeria, then based on our industrialization forecasts, we today in our the free zone, trade zone between us, it's the largest zone in terms of then the actual resources available that I am currently managing. There is increasing demand for manufactured goods. Then, given the rising middle classes of youth on our continent, there is a major potential to be untapped in industrializing these resources in many spheres. Major potential in agriculture, as well as in agri-foods. Other major opportunities in energy, renewable energy, healthcare, as well as in the automotive industry, where these opportunities are rife and many and plenty and are waiting to be untapped, including green energy and services. We must turn those opportunities into bankable projects, and we must encourage the private sector, moving it towards more processing. We must continue to improve and eliminate obstacles that prevent us from conducting trade. We must upgrade skills and competencies in the manufacturing sector. We must invest in productive manufacturing. We must bring about greater regional integration with the different institutions and stakeholders so that Africa would be independent economically and socially. We must also then implement our memorandum of understanding. The role of the African Development Bank is here crucial and essential in moving forward in this respect, so that our continent can make major headway. We must be at in the forefront of these initiatives. We must contribute to enhancing, strengthening, and broadening these value chains.
President Assoumani said that in the business of decision-making when you are in government, it's more about removing barriers and removing obstacles. First, congratulations on your re-election for a second term this past June. As you continue to lead Sierra Leone, a country that has made significant strides under your first mandate, Africa stands really at a crossroads when it comes to its economic transformation. Considering the continental aspiration, the AU Agenda for 2063, what do you envision as the pivotal challenges and opportunities for the continent, and how do you see these reflecting on the broader economic transformation of Africa, particularly in sustainable development, technological advancement, and regional integration in a post-COVID era?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I want to start by thanking President Adesina for inviting me to this forum, and I want to use the same occasion to thank His Majesty Mohammed VI, the King of Morocco, for the hospitality extended to me and my delegation. And coming to the topic itself, I think Africa is at the crossroads. And indeed, we have great opportunities. It could be the most favorable destination for foreign investment, but there are serious challenges that need to be surmounted. And that is the function of us leaders, working in collaboration with partners around the world and within Africa to clear the roadblocks that lie ahead of us. There are challenges, but as an eternal optimist, like my brother, the President Adesina, I see these obstacles as opportunities. And how we leaders can transform these challenges into opportunities is what is most important, and we must get our heads around that. One of the issues mentioned by President Azali is infrastructure. Definitely, in Africa, we have serious infrastructure deficit, which must be tackled now. Some of them are so serious that they are a bottleneck to everything that we should be doing in order to transform our economies. We need massive investment in roads, waterways, access to pipe-borne water, ICT, and a host of others to enable us to join the world and to be effective within our countries. These infrastructural deficits must be tackled now because they provide some of the greatest roadblocks in this journey to economic transformation. The ADB estimates that 170 billion is needed annually for us to be able to handle this. How we can work in partnership with international financial institutions, how we can work with the private sector to tackle this is what we should be doing. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to encourage the private sector, to provide them with the necessary assurance they need to be able to come to that space and not just trying to tackle them from public expenditure. We also lack diversification. Our economies are not properly diversified, and therefore, whenever there is a shock, it affects us very adversely. We have to, as governments in Africa, try to diversify. We depend mostly on commodities, such as oil and gas, cocoa, coffee, diamond, and when the prices fall, we are directly affected. When the prices are on the higher side, we do enjoy some amount of economic growth. But how can we put up with the shocks? Means that we have to diversify our economy. And in addition to diversifying our economy, we also have to try to do value addition on our continent. We notice that a lot of our young people are going across the Atlantic and die in the process. That is because we send all our raw commodities across the Atlantic, and they are chasing those, the job opportunities that those should be provided in Africa is what is being provided elsewhere. And that is what our children are chasing. The revenue that should be provided to make it possible for us to fulfill the social pledges we make is what those kids are chasing across the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. I believe that we must make every effort to add value to the products that we produce. We can also, of course, there is a strong reliance on natural resources. But what diversification we do is to make sure that we shift some attention away from just natural resources and taking them out in that raw form. So making our economy more resilient in terms of like the vulnerability we experienced during COVID-19, I think we should build our health systems so that they can withstand the shocks that are common today. We are suffering from the impact of the war in Ukraine. I think we have what it takes to be able to provide enough food and the many things that we are losing as a result of the war in Ukraine. We also must make effort to harness the demographic dividend that is the youth empowerment. This, in my opinion, requires us investing in the youth and providing jobs for them. If we don't do that, the youth bulge, instead of being a blessing, will become a curse again, because Africa is going to be home to 25% of the world's population by 2050. We must make effort to provide these people with jobs and not to take the jobs away. The African Free Trade Area Agreement is another opportunity. And within the sub-regions in Africa, we should be able to free the space for both goods, people, and services. That way, it will enhance economic growth, sustainable economic growth, inclusive too. But we have been doing a lot of talking, but action is needed to actually make sure that the AIF2023 is implemented. Within ECOWAS, we are able to free up the space. So it is incumbent upon us as leaders. The other thing is Our human capital index is very, very low in Africa. That is because we have not invested quite a lot in our people. I always say and believe that the most important asset for any nation is the human resource of that country. And the only way you can enhance that human resource is through education, fit for purpose education, one that we position Africa for the fourth industrial revolution. We must invest in our people, making sure that they have the technical and vocational training that they need to undertake the complex things that we need to do in the 21st century. If we do not do that, we are going to suffer too. Political stability. The economists, we talk about macroeconomic stability. As a politician, I will talk about political stability. We need to provide political stability in Africa so that we will provide that the environment, the enabling environment for private sector to thrive, for many people to be able to go about their businesses and do what they have to do to keep their families okay. And that is also for investment. If you do not have a stable political climate, nobody is going to invest in your country. I believe that if we do all of these and many other things that we need to take care of, we should be able to transform the journey. It's a journey, economic transformation. It's one that is fraught with so many difficulties. But I believe that some of these difficulties can be translated into opportunities, and that is what we are gathered here for, to present projects that the public sector cannot necessarily undertake, but can provide the necessary support and assurance to the private sector to undertake in order for us to embark on a successful journey to economic transformation.
Let me turn to you, Madam President. Welcome to Morocco. Madam President, Tanzania, with its strategic geographical location and the abundance of its natural resources, plays a crucial role in East Africa's economic ecosystem. Drawing from Tanzania's experience, what lessons do you believe can be extrapolated to the wider African context to catalyze regional integration and intra-African commerce, because as you know, we're one of the least integrated continents in the world, and accelerating the economic transformation of the continent, aligned with the free trade agreement, with the continental free trade area that President Bio mentioned extensively. The floor is yours, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. First of all, let me join others in thanking the host, the government of Morocco, hosting this conference, but again thanking the FDB for organizing this forum and provide a platform for us to be able to share the successes, stories, but also challenges, and maybe we'll come up with the possible solutions of the challenges that face Africa. Having said that, let me say yes, Tanzania is very strategically located at the east of Africa, and we are sharing borders with 8 countries, and so all these 8 countries depends on Tanzania, on transportation of people and goods through various ports of Tanzania. But then before going to the ports, let's say connectivity is the major issue in Africa, and that's a gap we are having. Africa has to invest a lot in connectivity. Talking of connectivity, I once attended a conference in Senegal, and reaching Senegal, I had to go to Paris first, going to Europe and then coming back to Africa. So that's a problem of connectivity in our continent. But in Tanzania, how are we dealing with the connectivity, working with all these 8 neighbors? We are using roads, we have invested a lot in connecting Tanzania with our 8 road-accessible countries like Zambia, Mozambique, Malawi, and others who can be accessed by roads. But we are also using water transport, ports. Tanzania has got, say, 7 ports. We have a port of Dar es Salaam, which is a major one, and a main gate to Eastern and Central and Southern Africa. But then we have a port of Tanga, which gives access to the northern part of Tanzania, then to the neighboring countries. But we also have Mtwara Port, which is opening the southern corridor of Tanzania and going to Malawi. And then we have the northern corridor. The northern corridor is Tanga, I've mentioned it. But we also have Zanzibar Port, which is an island. You can go everywhere from Zanzibar. But we also have ports in our lakes. We have Mwanza Port in Lake Victoria, as well as Kigoma Port in Lake Tanganyika. And Kigoma can take you to DRC easily. So we are working on all these connectivities. We also have railway networks. Again, the ports are connected to the rail networks. So we have the northern railway, we have the central railway, but we also want to establish the northern one. The central railway, this is the upgrading of the Asian railway, and we are now constructing the standard gauge railway, which will connect the port of Dar es Salaam to Burundi, through DRC, then Rwanda, also Uganda. We are going to be connected with this port. We are also connected by air. Air Tanzania is now transporting people and goods to the neighboring countries and even outside Africa. So that's how we are connected. On abundance of resources, yes, Tanzania is very much gifted. We do have critical minerals for technology-intensive industries. The minerals which the world is looking for nowadays. We do have about 5 of them. Tanzania has got nickel, has got cobalt, we have graphite, we have lithium, we have others. So Tanzania is well gifted with minerals. But again, the energy sources. Tanzania is having gas, we have solar, and we have water, hydropower. So energy sources, Tanzania is very much endowed with energy sources. The only thing now is to invest and make sure we do have enough power for industrialization and other development activities. But we also have an arable land for agriculture. So we are well blessed on the natural resources. For intra-African commerce, yes. As I said, we do have all these connections for transportation of people and goods, and so it facilitates African trade and investment. But again, we invest heavily in human capital development and also in diversification and modernization of our economy. The technology and digital innovation. We have given a priority to it. We have started, we have established several startups for the youth, for them to be able to engage in various sectors, coming with innovations on how they will work on several sectors. Important thing of all is the embracement of private sector. For us, we know that private sector, is the only engine of economic growth. And so we are working with the private sector. We have created an environment, favorable environment for private sector to thrive in our country. And so we are receiving a lot of private business in our country. But having said all that, I'm emphasizing on two major areas: investment on infrastructure, on transportation of people and goods, and this is what is going to be discussed today in the boardroom, and I welcome all these participants to be with us and listen to us on what we need to present in the boardroom. Having said all that, important thing for us, and this is a lesson people can learn from Tanzania, is political stability, peace and security of the country. Tanzania is very, very well known on this. And so to make Tanzania continue to be a peaceful and stable country, we have come up with the 4R philosophy. And by 4Rs, we mean reconciliation, resilience, reforms, and rebuilding of our nation. As everybody is aware here that Tanzania is a democratic country, and so we do have about 17 political parties. So election is our way of giving permission to one party to run the country. So after election, we all have to sit together and agree on which way we want to develop our country. So we reconcile. If any wrongs done, we have to reconcile, but then we have to have huge resilience. And again, together we make the reforms and we rebuild our nation. So the major lessons could be two: investing in infrastructure, 3, human capital, and peace and stability of the country.
Thank you very much. Let me turn to you, Prime Minister Girente. Your country, Prime Minister, under the leadership of President Kagame, is regarded by many as iconic when it comes to the speed of its rapid structural economic transformation. But yet, Africa, as a continent, although it made a lot of progress, is struggling and is much slower in achieving similar results. What are, in your opinion, the underlying reasons for that? Lack of integration, or lack of shared vision, or both?
Thank you, moderator. I think you are putting me in a very complicated situation, asking me the reasons. I think everyone knows the reasons. But what I want to say is more about what needs to be done. You know, first of all, we should be happy that we used to discuss what you used to call Africa's potential. Now, I am at least happy that we're discussing actions. You know, a forum like this one, where we discuss investment, is something very important. Discussing investment, what needs to be done, because now we know already we know Africa's potential, and we already know our capacity, and we already know our challenges. So I'm very happy that we're not discussing the challenges, we're not discussing the potential, we're discussing actions. But also, as I think I mentioned in a few years ago in the same forum, that as African continent, we know what needs to be done. We should go into action now. And if we don't go into action now, we're losing time. We're wasting our time, so we need to be practical. And what we want to do as African continent is work together, to plan together. And the good thing now is that at least we have a shared vision, Africa 2063. That's something very important, but we need to implement it. And implementing it properly need to have that cohesion, to have that synergy, to work together as a continent. That's very important. The second thing we need to do in a practical way is to de-risk all those risky sectors. We need to work together to de-risk risky sectors in Africa. The President of Tanzania mentioned the connectivity. The connectivity is very important because the connectivity in terms of infrastructure is very key because it facilitates not only the movement of goods, but also the movement of people. We've been talking about South-South cooperation, how African countries can cooperate, can work together. But we cannot work together if there is no movement of people. We need to have, first, skilled people, but we need also to facilitate their movement from a country to another. So we need to go to look for experts in other countries out of Africa, where we have some experts in the same countries and on our continent. But we are not using them, we are not employing them because that movement of people is not there. So the connectivity is very important, facilitating movement of people, planning it together, de-risking those risky sectors, and we know them, including agriculture, to facilitate the youth to enter into that sector. But also we need to speak a same voice as a continent. So, and that has started already when we see what is being called now Global South. You can see that the Global South have the same voice now when we're dealing with these global issues. And that's something very important for us as a continent. So what we need to do is just to plan strategically and plan together as a continent and facilitate investment so that we can plan the way we attract our investors from either from Africa or from out of Africa, but we do that strategically together. I thank you so much. I hope we'll have maybe another opportunity to talk about Rwandan achievement, but as African continent, this is what I want to say. Thank you so much.
Prime Minister Motley, how do you see the collaboration between the Caribbean and Africa? How can we forge together a global South that speaks up? How can we shape an agenda that accelerates economic development while simultaneously addressing the existential threat of climate change? Could you elaborate on those synergies, Madam Prime Minister?
Thank you very much. And like my others who've gone before me, I'd like to thank the government of Morocco and His Excellency King Mohammed VI for their gracious hospitality. I'd like to thank the African Development Bank for facilitating this conversation and allowing us to reclaim our Atlantic destiny. And I say so because even though the distance is long, there's really nothing between us. And because there is nothing between us, we are finding more and more that the opportunities for synergies and solidarity are clear. For many years, we in the Caribbean spoke about the climate crisis and indicated that we were the canaries in the mine as small island developing states. But we have so failed to act that others have joined, and in particular in this continent, you have felt from droughts to floods to hurricanes the full impact of the climate crisis. This has given us an opportunity to show how we can work together again, not only on the immediacy of the political actions necessary for the climate crisis, but most important, on the oxygen necessary for development. We cannot choose one issue over the other. And the mistake that is being made is to ask us to choose people over planet or planet over people. In those circumstances, our journey has been similar in terms of the lack of economic diversification, in terms of the exploitation that we face, in terms of the challenges that we must mount now to be able to lift our people and to allow them to be educated to be the best citizens that they can be, but more importantly than even that as well, giving them the opportunities to be able to benefit from investment and benefit from the prosperity that is possible in our lands. Now, if we are continuously fighting the climate crisis and the consequences of it, it is going to be difficult to raise the quality of life of our people. And that is why we believe that there has to be a unified approach to creating a more level playing field. We have, through collaboration with others, brought to the table the Bridgetown Initiative, which is intended to lower and level the cost of money, of capital, to our countries. We've heard much today about the possibilities that Africa offers with respect to being able to create a just industrial strategy that is appropriate to the greening of our economies in terms of the transitions that we must make going forward, and that will also allow for our young people to be able to be on the cutting edge of where the world must go to protect itself. we face the common difficulties of the global south not being able to access capital at rates that make investments palatable. In Glasgow, everybody talked about the JETP in South Africa. Where is it today? It's not there today because the cost of capital is simply too high. And we recognize that we pay a premium largely because of foreign exchange risk. Unless we pause to deconstruct many of these things, we're not going to be able to have the bounty that development ought to offer us, while at the same time being able to develop the resilience that we need. It struck me this morning when I spoke to your Minister of Finance and Economy here from Morocco, and I asked her, how are you recovering from the earthquake? Her answer was the one that gave me the greatest pause. We are recovering by you being here and helping to be able to fuel our economy to become more resilient. Because the people who have been affected clearly by the earthquake can only recover through additional economic activity. This is critical. And the issues of connectivity continue to haunt us. If we continue to look north rather than looking east or west, we will continue to be pawns and continue to have others determine our future development. We have been talking for way too long, and we need now to be able to establish those bridges. In my own country, we do home porting for cruise ships, and we do it for the Europeans and the Americans. And I ask myself, where are the Africans? Where are the people from the Gulf states? The truth is that we have not traditionally gone in there, but these are distinct opportunities for Africa to exploit, because if you're going to get the bounty of development, it means that you're also going to have people whose incomes will rise, and once people's incomes rise, the issue of how they spend it in terms of recreation also becomes an option. Why is Africa not leasing ships within the cruise industry to be able to move from the bottom of 3% participation to where it can be? Why are we not doing home porting in the summer? In the Caribbean, we talk about winter and summer as if we have snow, and summer we don't. But it reflects the North Atlantic perspective, rather than recognizing that the perfect opportunity for smoothing our tourism market is by being able to open each other's markets so that there is far more movement between Africa and the Caribbean than currently exists. The quickest way to do that is probably through cruise, and in cruise, through either leasing ships or joint ventures. And after a few years, once you've proven the market, then you start to own them. So I hope that we recognize that partnerships in areas such as this, partnerships in the pharmaceutical industry, partnerships in areas of research, particularly since the one thing that unites us is the Atlantic Ocean. And we are on the verge of coming to recognize that it is the oceans more than any other area that will have to be able to help the planet survive both the climate crisis and the loss of biodiversity. So I share these few perspectives with you in a view that the Global South working together on these key areas of just industrial strategy, lowering and leveling the cost of capital, and working together in substantive ways to be able to expand markets for each other through expanded connectivity will create the platform that will give us the financial and economic capacity to become more resilient in a climate crisis world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Monsieur le Président Azali Assoumani.
Mr. Soumani, I wonder, as Prime Minister, echoing the words of His Majesty 2 days ago, Mohammed VI, encouraging then more cooperation across the Atlantic. But in addition, the Prime Minister said we need to choose here between the people or the people, or the people or the planet, or vice versa. Or you, Mr. Chairman, your decision in the Comoros is one that the people and the planet are both center stage. and you added an additional level here, which is to improve your exports, level of exports, and to develop tourism as creating a major added value for your islands. What is your objective, Mr. President, have you set in terms of your emerging economy, the Comores? Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for your questions, sir. Now, let me certainly, I would echo the words of my sister Sonia earlier, who said that we are neighbors. And we say that do we choose? We don't choose friends. We can choose our friends. We can't choose our brothers and sisters. The Comores, our archipelago of islands, our neighbours. Despite the distances, we are close. We are close, and therefore. She mentioned a key term here, which is political rapprochement. We need development and peace. The two go hand in hand. Political stability, of course, and Tanzania is a great example of this. That we can a model that should inspire us. Indeed, in Tanzania, we've had over 25 years. We had Bogdana every 4 years. We have regimes that come and go, overturning of regimes. Exploited and so on, and with the example of Tanzania, we've had 5 different political systems, regimes, and we have the 26th of May is our presidential day. Then now, on the 22nd, the 26th of May 2002 was a year. Then, and the 26th of 2006, we had another president. We have presidents that come and go. 26th of May 2011, we invested another president. The 26th of May 2016, then I was overseas. I came back when I was invested. So an investiture of 2019 of another president again. Inshallah, perhaps 2024 there'll be another president. So we do the best. We are trying to stabilize our country. These institutional changes do not facilitate political stability in our country. And therefore, we need to move forward in the same direction, to embark upon the same road together. We must, and we thank all our partners warmly here who have supported us, because without them, we would not have been able to achieve what we have achieved. The Comorians want to move forward and not backwards or sideways. With regard to, as we said in 2016, we had an emerging plan, and then up until 2013 and 2018-19, then we made some amendments to our constitution. In 2019, we had new elections. I was re-elected at that time. We relaunched then our 2030 recovery stimulation plan. Then that didn't move forward. We held a conference in Paris where we had a lot of attendees. We held a workshop in 2020 to relaunch this project, stimulation plan, recovery plan, that will take us up to 2013, developing infrastructures. We're moving forward, but to give you some information we have here, we have a fertile soil, limited soil that is fertile, which we are developing. Our soil is porous. Water infiltrates, soaks into the soil, but it's fertile soil nonetheless in our islands. And therefore, we have garden crops, other crops. So we have subsistence crops that we grow and develop, that we export. But to do that, we need we compete obviously with other countries such as Kenya and Tanzania as well. So we have other we have vanilla, we have cloves as well that we grow then as crops. So we want investors. We want to attract investors to help us to create more added value for these crops, for this crop growing land. Young people anyone else who travels to other countries, could they not come and to our islands, to our countries, and to turn and to help us to improve our economy? Whenever we organize a call for bids, a call for proposals, we have young people. There are major talents and skills that we should attract to come to our countries, but they are often manipulated on the job and labor markets. This is a form of slavery. So in our country, we have all the resources. We have every resource you can think of. We have minerals. You talked about gas and oil, but today in Africa we have land. We have a lot of land that we are not developing. We are not leveraging this land at the moment, and we're all responsible. I'm not necessarily hoisting the guilt on anybody. So another project then is fishing. Fisheries. We have. In 2000, we have lots of land, but we have lots of ocean, lots of water. And we need to develop our fisheries industry. As well as developing fertile land, fisheries is another objective priority for us. Also, tourism. Thirdly, those of you who have visited the Comoros know that we have a major potential that we can tap into. We have white sand, that some countries do not have. We have this white sand, which is a major asset that can help us to develop tourism in our islands. So the tourism must be developed because we have then few tourists. We have the ability to accommodate, to attract more tourists in the near future. We would certainly invite you and encourage you to come and visit us. That is a flagship project. For us. Then we have sun, but we can't compete with Morocco in terms of sun or hours or days of sunshine. We're not trying to compete with Morocco, but on the other hand, we do have that asset or resource, which is sun as well, which can help us to leverage the development of tourism in the archipelago of the Comoros. As we are more exposed to the elements. We have neighboring countries, adjoining countries, so island communities, societies. Then in terms of payments, we need to do more in terms of interconnectivity between our neighbors in terms of shipping lines, air traffic also that we need to develop at the moment. These are expensive modes of transport. We thank the ABAD, the African Development Bank, that has helped us to help us to develop these sectors of our economy. We need also to deal and work more with other countries in terms of transport interconnectivity, in terms of more shipping lines, interconnecting air traffic and maritime traffic between our islands and neighboring countries and states. We must encourage this. We have signed another agreement with the African Bank. We ask you, investors, to come to our island and to our country to help us to invest, to develop our sectors of the economy. This will give you then I'm sure you can come and develop and invest in the Comoros with peace of mind, with the guarantees and assurances that you need. You will be welcome, certainly, to our country. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for Mr. President, for then that plea to investors to come to your country and invest there.
President Bio, and I have a question. Is it by design that your strategy plan for the country is called the Big Five Game Changers? And at the same year, you're entering the P5, which is the Security Council, as a non-permanent member. Your country now has a unique platform to influence global governance. And at the same time, your leadership with the C10 initiative underscores Sierra Leone's commitment to advocating for Africa's representation on the Council. How do you bridge the fact that you have this amazing voice now and the big 5 game changers focusing on human capital development, food, self-sufficiency, technological and infrastructure expansion, public service revamp, and youth employment with your role in the Security Council to not only advance national interests, but also to reinforce Africa as a whole?
Thank you very much again. It really goes back to the United Nations Security Council after nearly 50 years of hiatus. During this time, we've had to go through an 11-year civil war. And I think the bitterness of that war, the lessons learned, and the many things that we did to come out of that war is what we want to share with the rest of the world. Today, we see within nations and among nations or between nations struggles that lead to the death and destruction and disruption of the whole world, because today we live in the global village. One of the lessons that we want to share with the world is that whatever you do, war is not the solution. We fought for 11 years, hacked the limbs of so many people, killed so many people, but we never ended our challenges on the battlefield. It was settled on the table through a negotiated settlement between the government and the rebels. This was after so much destruction. And I believe that that is a very strong lesson that we can share with the world, that dialogue, as benign as it might look, is very powerful. And the more we talk, the more we understand each other's position. And that the dehumanization, the lack of communication that is engendered by war and bitterness will help us to close our gaps and think about the world and what we can do. The fighting and the killing will only divide us further. So we think that there is a lot to share. And as an African nation, definitely we have the big 5 game changers nationally. This is an opportunity to share with the world what this nation has gone through and the efforts we are making to get back to our feet after 11 years of civil war. One of the crudest wars in terms of the savagery, the atrocities that we have committed. Now we are looking at revamping our economy. We are looking at providing jobs for our children. We are looking at revamping even the public service mechanism so that it can deliver fast, because our kids, the young people, are restless. They don't have any patience, and you must have an effective public service system to deliver on the promises that you make and what is needed to keep them going. This is also an opportunity for us to pursue the Pan-Africanism and the African First policy that has been the center of our foreign policy as a nation. We have to showcase this to the global stage during our presence in the Security Council. Africa, with 1.2 billion people, is not properly represented in the Security Council in its present configuration. The Security Council itself was configured that way to cater for the needs over 70 years ago of a few countries, winners. As we must have watched the debate and the wrangling and bickering, why thousands of people are dying, I think it behoves us all as a world community to see what we can do to change the configuration of the United Nations Security Council. Many are dying, and one nation can stop us intervening to stop the carnage. I think humanity is losing the plot. We all sit helplessly and watch the world. We can't do anything because one or two nations are at loggerheads. The geopolitical tensions are actually taking place there, being displayed and demonstrated, but we do not have a say in that. So I believe that as the coordinator of the C10, the Committee of 10 African Heads of State, to advocate for the reform of the Security Council, we will be able to use the pressure to make sure that we let them hear our voice. We let them know that there are other people, there are other countries in the world besides the P5. So I will be representing Africa. I'll be representing West Africa, the challenges, the peculiar challenges we have in the Sahel region, the unconstitutional changes that are beginning to cripple our governments again in Africa. These are things that are common to Africa, and we must be able to present them at that level. So I think besides just presenting our national program, which is the Big Five, I should be able to represent Africa in the Security Council and make sure that we advance not only the Big Five game changers, but also the peace and security that we need in the world, because we live in a global village. Whether we like it or not, whatever happens elsewhere is also happening to us in an indirect way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Bio. President Bio, you're bridging the B5 with the P5 with this very ambitious program. Let me turn to you, Madam President. You have made history as Tanzania's first female president and have since been steering your nation toward inclusive economic growth with a particular focus on empowering women and youth. As Tanzania is embarked in this journey, continues to integrate technology and innovation within its industries, and embarks on a significant infrastructure project, could you share with us how you are balancing the rapid pace of this economic modernization with the imperatives of sustainability and social inclusivity, especially in sectors like manufacturing and agribusiness, which are pivotal for Tanzania's transformation?
Thank you so much. Yes, I should thank God for giving me this responsibility. And as a woman, as a mother, and a grandmother, I've decided to take some of the issues as my own agenda. First of those issues are the sectors of education and health. Recognizing the role education and health are playing in economic growth, I have decided to intensively work on these two sectors. So on health, major work has been done by the previous phases of the government, but then I've decided to work more on the quality of health which is given to our people. So provision of health centers to the level of, to the village levels, but provision of medicines and drugs, health equipment, treatment equipment, and the manpower to serve the people. That's one point. And on health, I thought to embrace health for everybody. And so we engaged in universal health insurance for the whole country. This is what we are working on now. and also issues of nutrition. We thought these are important issues for the betterment and for the growth of our youth in Tanzania. Issues of maternal and infant mortality are as well part of my priority areas. But then on education, Tanzanian government has decided to give free education to everybody. But then, of course, having free education is one thing, but still there were some challenges which makes children of Tanzania to drop out of the formal system of education. So we have decided to give the second chance to them, especially girls who dropped out for any reason, to come back to school and continue with their former schooling. And we have done that, and the girls are back to school. But also, we have dedicated special schools for science subjects for girls. So we have special science school for girls because we have noted the gap in science sectors. Girls are not very well involved in there. So we have special schools for girls, also the vocational training centers. Because we are talking on the fourth industrial revolution, we have to have employable workforce. So we have established vocational training centers throughout the country, and the youth are being trained in there. Apart from that, I think sustainable development for women and youth is again very important subject, and we are working on various issues catering for their sustainable development. And one very important issue is involving our youth and women in the program called Building a Better Tomorrow for Youth and Women. And this is about engaging this population in agricultural activities. And by agricultural activities in Tanzania, we mean crop farming, fisheries, livestock keeping, and honey making or honey farming. So we have created a program which is called Building a Better Tomorrow, and this is about modernization and commercialization of productive sectors, agricultural sectors. And this includes also heavy investments in mechanization, irrigation, agro-processing, and digital platforms for youth. And the digital platforms is looking on access to agriculture extension services, marketing, also incomes, source of, or calculations and getting incomes for the smallholder farmers. So in here, we are very thankful to the African Development Bank, which is giving a very substantive support in this program. And a lot of our youth are now engaged in this program, and we hope by 2030, agriculture sector is going to have a lot of contribution to our GDP. It is now contributing by 4.6, and by then we're expecting 10% contribution to the GDP. So that's about technology and industrialization.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Prime Minister Girente, your country, Rwanda, aims to reach upper middle income status by 2035 and high income status by 2050. To achieve this aspiration, you need to attract and sustain more and high private investment. What measures are you taking to attract more investments in your country?
Thank you so much, Moderator. First of all, I want to say that Rwanda created an attractive investment environment. We have had a commitment to economic growth with an average of at least 8% every year since the last 2 decades. And the environment is very safe for investors in Rwanda. Now, responding to your question, we all know that to attract investments, you need to have a very good package of incentives, of course, for those people to come and invest in your country. And the key element in that package is the security. The Rwanda security is a key factor in attracting investment in Rwanda. The country has been working toward creating a safe and a secure environment. When you come to Rwanda, you feel really safe. You feel home. You can move from a city to another, from a district to another, safely with no problem being night or day. So the security is the first component for our package, which is offered to our investors. Then the other elements of that package, we have been investing heavily in infrastructure, roads, electricity, water and sanitation, but also IT infrastructure. We have been always talking about investing in Africa, but you cannot attract investment, manufacturing and other things if you don't have electricity. Our target in Rwanda is to make sure that all households across the country are connected 100% by 2024. But so far, we have reached the 374% of our households are connected to electricity. They have a connection. So across the country, not only the city, but even in rural areas. So we have been investing heavily in electricity routes, and that's being done. And our target of reaching 100% by next year, we hope to achieve it. The second thing is roads. Our roads, the whole country is connected with roads. You can go from the capital city to any other region of the country by road, and not only road, but quality roads. As you know, the Rwandan roads, in terms of quality, were #1 in East Africa, and we were #3 in Africa. So we made sure that at least our roads are a quality road, so investors can move from a city to another, from a region to another. But also, we talked about connectivity in Africa, and we talked about movement of people. Rwanda now in Africa, we're a country where we provide visa-free entry for all African citizens. So you can come to Rwanda visa-free. That was our decision. Thank you. That was our government decision because we want people to move to Rwanda whenever they want, being investors or even visiting the country. The other element is investing heavily in education because we believe that if you want to attract investors, those investors, they need to have workforce available in Rwanda. So I've been investing heavily in education, not only access to education, but also the quality education. And since we're talking about manufacturing, we made sure that the technical schools have been given more incentives and share in our education system. So now our program is to make sure that at least 60% of our youth go to technical schools, while another 40% go to general education. Also, we have been investing in health systems because we believe that to attract investors, the investor has to have, access to health and the medical system. So we're investing in medical tourism in Rwanda, and we have created what we call a medical hub city where we have put everything, being laboratories, hospitals, and they were attracting even, we have started now manufacturing some medical medicine in Rwanda and vaccine. So because we want to make sure that at least the investor who is in Rwanda can have access to quality medical system. Now, in terms of internet, because we want to make sure that at least the connectivity in terms of internet, the communication can be easier for any investor who is in Rwanda, wherever he is, being in a city or different region of Rwanda. We've been investing also heavily in internet connectivity, and have now achieved 98% of 4G coverage in across the country, and the mobile phone penetration now have reached 84% of our people have access to mobile phone in Rwanda. So those are a list of things we have been doing, we have been working on, and we keep maintaining them, and we keep also investing in other incentives to make sure that at least when you are an investor, you come to Rwanda, you feel home, you feel welcomed, and you have all you need to make sure that your business can be managed well in our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Ngirente. Ladies and gentlemen, being the lowest in the value chain of this panel, I only have one power in my hands, is to start it and to end it. So I will give the final question to Prime Minister Motley, who will have the daunting task of inspiring us and giving her final remarks before I do some house management and pave the way for the next panels. Prime Minister, in leading Barbados, you have been proactive in addressing climate change while also seeking to maintain economic growth and development. Could you share with us the specific strategies and initiatives that Barbados has implemented to balance these goals, and how these actions could serve as a model for sustainable development within small island developing states and beyond?
Well, as I said earlier, we don't have the luxury of choosing between people and planet, and therefore we have to be able to have an approach to development that pretty much reflects the Sustainable Development Goals. Investment in our people. I think President Bayo said it earlier, we only have people at the end of the day to rely on. And Barbados has successively, across governments, invested in its people. And we're now about to launch a major economic transformation through education as we go through it. Similarly, we recognize that our ability to be able to control public health is absolutely critical. If we did not have that ability because of the density of our housing situation, we would have had a far more difficult time as we managed the COVID-19 pandemic. At the same time, the climate crisis presents an opportunity for us to fuel economic growth through the transition to being a far more resilient country and being able to respond to things such as coastal degradation, our Roofs to Reefs program. How do we strengthen our housing to be able to withstand storms that are greater than before? How do we improve our water distribution system? I know here in Marrakesh you have a wonderful water museum because you too have faced difficulties with access to water. We are one of the 15 most water-scarce countries in the world. So we're using the opportunities with respect to becoming resilient as a boon for economic activity in the country. But at the end of the day, Barbados is small. We're 437 square kilometers. We have, in fact, we're probably the size of the Gaza Strip, and with a much less population. But we understand that our way in the world is determined by the extent to which we engage with the rest of the world. We need to produce global citizens with Barbadian roots. We need to leverage the fact that we were a hub, regrettably, for the wrong reasons for centuries. We need to be a hub for the right reasons today in terms of agro-processing, in terms of logistics, in terms of knowledge and influence with respect to how we treat each other. We believe that smallness gives us the advantage of having to see people, hear people, and feel people, and therefore be able to bring about the level of political stability that my other colleague heads of government and heads of state here have spoken about. And we believe that in so doing, we can create that opportunity, particularly for Africa, as the sixth region of the African Union in the Americas, to create the platform by which you can extend your influence, access other wider trade agreements, be able to invest, and in so doing, we create the opportunities for our own country to be able to develop in a win-win situation in partnership with Africa. Whether we like it or not, the climate crisis is going to suck up a lot of the oxygen in the atmosphere. And it is because all of the plans that we have can literally be put to one side if we are faced with a major climatic event, as we saw in Pakistan, as we've seen in Mozambique, as we've seen in Malawi, as we've seen in the Caribbean. And to that extent, therefore, we need to be able to cooperate on areas with respect to finance and insurance far more effectively than we've been doing. And we need to confront the reality that geopolitics is removing from us the level of cooperation that we need. This weekend, we've seen the potential for a loss and damage fund move forward, but as to how we will capitalize it, that remains to be seen because that requires political will and that requires action on the part of individual states that have not necessarily yet shown the commitment to follow through beyond the commitments given under the cameras and the lights at the various congresses. That is going to affect our ability to transition. And if that ability to transition is compromised, sustainable economic development will equally be compromised. I hope, therefore, that we can find the courage to partner with each other and to see the comparative advantages each of us has within Africa, within the Caribbean, to be able to cooperate and to be able to confront those global challenges and also the international economic shocks that are being thrust upon us, whether through supply disruptions, whether through increased prices of commodities, and whether through reduced opportunities for easier and more efficient trade. Thank you.
I don't think, Madam Prime Minister, that there is a better way to conclude this panel than with this message of hope that you've given us. Ladies and gentlemen, 4 key takeaways in 30 seconds. The 5 leaders gathered here today said 4 things. Invest in infrastructures, connect and use logistics, organize political stability, and nurture talents and the sons of our nations. If you take the first letter of each of these words, invest, connect, organize, nurture, it gives you the word icon. So I move to the floor a proposition to President Adesina that next year we will call this debate the debate of icons.